Hello, my friends, and welcome to another devotional connection. I was intrigued by the Sabbath school lesson this past week in discussing Moses and his calling. Intrigued by the 40 years that he spent as a shepherd. Intrigued by the 40 years he spent in Egypt before that. That his true calling on his life didn't come until he was 80. And in those last 40 years, he probably did more than he did in the first 80 years of his life. But let's not neglect what he did in those first 80 years. He wrote the book of Job, and he wrote Genesis. And Genesis must have come with incredible insight into the great controversy and into the things of the Lord, because in the book of Genesis, especially in the first 11 chapters, you get the entire answers to some of the biggest questions of mankind. Where do we come from? Why are we here? What happened to us? God, what are you going to do about it? And where do we go from here? How did this happen? How did we go from the first family to nations that speak different languages, have different cultures? It puts in perspective that we are all one people. It puts in perspective who we belong to and who our Father is. It puts in perspective and gives you quite the understanding of the enemy and the war that we are in. One of the things that it comes down to, even in Moses and his responses when God called him to deliver the Hebrews out of Egypt and to go before the Pharaoh, all the excuses that he came up with, and even if some of them were from a genuine I am unworthy place, the question and the responses were from a place where we lack trust. And over in the Bible, as I read through different sections, through different chapters, as I go through the theology, as I go through the gospel message, as I go through the questions and go through the stories, it really boils down to, do we trust God or not? You can ask all the questions that you want to. You can pontificate and on various things. You can meditate on various things, but it really comes down to, do we trust God or not? When sin was brought into the world, the first thing we did was run and hide. God came down asking, where are we? And it wasn't a question of a physical place. It was, our relationship has been torn apart. Where are we? Why have you believed this about me? Why have you done this? Why didn't you trust me? What have I done that has led you not to trust me? And sometimes we, even in the angst and woes of this life, even in the issues that we face on a daily basis, sometimes we really have to sit back and go through our own lives. What has God done in it? What are the stories that I have where he has come through for me over and over again? And sometimes hindsight is the only time you see God's hand in all of it. And then you go through the Bible stories, and then you go through, people in your family or the congregation and the stories they tell. And it really constantly boils down to, do you trust me? And that has everything to do with the study that I'm doing on identity. Because do I trust God when he tells me who I am? Do I trust God when he tells me what I am, what the purpose for my life is? Do I trust God with the direction things are going? Do I trust God with where he wants to take me? Do I trust God with what he wants to do with me? Do I trust God in the big things and the small things? Do I trust God to do big and small things with me? Do I trust God with everything? And in doing so, am I willing to work on the restoration of the relationship between me and God? Because at the end of it all, that's what it's all about. Those who believe in me shall not perish, but have everlasting life. To all those who have received him, he has given them the right to be called children of God. It's about the relationship, restoration of what was broken, and it's all trust. Throughout the Bible, over and over again, it baffles my mind that we serve a God who is constantly trying to explain himself to us. And it should be us the other way around, explaining ourselves to him, explaining our decisions, pleading for his mercies, begging. But it's constantly him calling out to his people, throwing himself on the fire, sacrificing himself, getting mud in his face, getting maligned by others. It's constantly him putting himself out there for you and I. Our unchanging, immovable, if I said I love you, I will always love you, God, who still gives us free will and free choice, but calls us to join him in eternity as not just his slaves, not his servants, but as his sons and daughters, as his children, as his lovers, as his friends. And yet it still boils down to, will you trust me? It's something to think about. If you have a chance, read Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. No, chapters 1 through 11, not verses, chapters 1 through 11. Get perspective again. Listen to it again. Go through the story again. Go through the flood. Go through the Tower of Babel. Go through the separate of nations again, and realize again what has happened to us. And then open up Ephesians chapter 1 and go through verses 3 through 10, where he says, I chose you before the foundation of the world to be holy and blameless before my sight. I chose you in Jesus Christ to be with me in love. Go through it again and remind yourself of who God is, what he has done, how much he loves you, and double down on who you believe that he is, and answer the question of who he should be to you. Talk to you again soon.